Nope, wrong one. My bad. There we are. There we are. Okay. Hey, everybody. Uh, don't adjust your screen. We have an extra large sized episode of Break Sec tonight. As you can see, Mick Douglas is here with us. We've got Mr. Betcher, of course. Miss Berlin, I'm assuming, was at Schmoo and is on her way home or something. Haven't seen hide nor hair of her, but we'll find out where she was next week, hopefully. So yeah, Mick, you're a hard guy to get a hold of. So
can be, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was on my way home. We had dinner about 45 minutes ago, and I was texting Mr. Betcher, and I was like, I actually adjusted the times on the schedule, which kind of sucks because I set it for 7 o'clock. So I probably do need to go into Twitch and update that accordingly. But because I wasn't sure if I was going to get home in time, so I changed some things, and so. But yeah, I was like, I haven't heard from Mick. He hasn't confirmed anything. I don't know what we're going to do. And Mr. Betcher was like, oh, okay, well, we'll play by ear. And thankfully, I get on and I find both of you on here. So that's nice. It's nice to see everybody on here and ready to go. So, but yeah.
Yeah. It's like you're at a restaurant and you go use the bathroom and you come back and all your food's ready to go.
That's right. I love it. I love it when that happens. Yeah. Where in the hell? So I'm still learning how to use the different bits on Twitch, like, what's your channel and what have you. So we wanted to have Mick on because he's been talking a lot of sense on Twitter recently, and I was like, hey, maybe we should have you on to talk about all of the things and some of the things that you've been working on and working with. And so for those people who are not aware of who you are, maybe you could tell people a little bit about yourself, and then we'll just shoot the shit. I mean, I think we're the anti-Oscar party tonight, so anybody who's wanting to hang out and talk about the Oscars is going to be sorely disappointed. So
well, cool. I'm actually very ill-suited for the Oscar stuff because my wife makes fun of me for how bad I am at knowing who various stars are. I'll be like, that's Matthew McConaughey, and somebody who's not. Like, it's pathological for me. So, hey, everybody. My name is Mick Douglas. I do several different things. So, one, I run my own boutique security consultancy. Me and my crew run InfoSec Innovations, where we do boutique, very crafty and interesting defenses for organizations of all sizes.
Yep.
And then I also am an instructor for SANS. That's why I'm wearing the Net Wars t-shirt. I'm actually getting ready to start teaching week-long starting tomorrow. I'll be teaching 504.
Okay.
And then in my spare time, it's not really spare time. I also am a member of the INS faculty, where I help advise any of the INS clients on, like, hey, do this, hey, don't do that. Here's some ideas. And we do these Ask an Expert calls. We do consulting engagements and all kinds of other fun stuff.
Right. So that's something I've wondered about, because I know more than one person who does the INS talking or speaking at INS events. They're not sponsors or anything, but I keep seeing this pop up. Are they some kind of think tank, or what is that?
Yeah, so the way it works is there's this vetting process that is kind of opaque to us. But basically, if you get the thumbs up, you get to participate in various activities. A lot of people, I think, are involved in these things called Ask an Experts, where it's either an hour-long phone conversation or like a 5-page position paper. A lot of times they do customized like conferences. So it's you just kind of get to participate to your own level of interest as a faculty member. And then if you are an organization that has INS as your provider, there's some kind of model, like you get to avail yourself of these sorts of folks. And I should know more about how that works, but unfortunately, I don't. I enjoy getting to meet with folks literally all over the world and like share with them like, hey, here's a pain point I had, and here's a better path.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I had no idea what they were about, but somebody was like, "Hey, this was 3, 4 years ago, and I didn't know, I didn't know what was involved with that, but they're like, oh yeah, you should get a hold of those folks and have them on your show." And I was like, I don't even know what they're about. But yeah, that's interesting. I'd heard of them because I know Kevin Johnson's also a member, or he does some work with that stuff too. So cool. Okay. All right. So I am going to. Is there anything you'd like to say or pitch or anything before you get started here? I'm gonna go and find some of your tweet threads here.
Well, while you're doing that, I definitely want to start pushing a project that we've been doing called what2log.com. That's what and then the number 2log.com. That's a site where we're trying to build up a recommendation of here's the things that you should start logging. And the reason that I'm pitching that really hard is we did a massive overhaul of this site. It looks the same, but now it's backed by a GitHub repository, meaning that we can receive community input. So if you've got an idea on something that you want logged and how to go about doing that, let us know. You can either put in some code and send it as a request, or you could put in issues, or just tweet at us, like literally whatever. But we're definitely at the point now where we can and are actively looking for community involvement.
Okay, so well, actually, this sounds pretty good segue here. What kind of things are you talking about logging? Are you just talking about logging from all points, or just OS related items? Because my colleague here does quite a bit with understanding logging and things as well.
Yes.
So
yep.
I was just wondering what you're thinking about there when you're thinking about what to log, or is there a what not to log?
We don't have that yet, and we probably wouldn't ever make that, because the answer is there's probably more that you shouldn't be logging than what you should. I'm a fan of having very laser focused logs, and so right now, for the moment, we only have OS, but we do want to branch into application and network security devices and network devices, just anything. If it generates a log, we want it to be on this site.
Right.
And what we do is that's a little bit different than other logging resources is we have it broken down by criticality. So, hey, these are the bare minimum. Like if y'all want to be on the dance field, like being for serious about logging, here's some of the things that you need to be doing. And then if you're wanting to do maybe break fix or troubleshooting, here's some other elements like more aggressive logging. And then we even show like here's crazy town type logging, and that might be stuff that you would log like when you're actively under attack. And
right.
That way you can right size your logging levels to what makes sense for you.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah. So you said
that's a good strategy. Have your tools ready to go, and just log the bare minimum. But if you get attacked or you suspect there's something going on, then you can bump that up.
Yep.
Right. And you can also bump it up to forward to a SIM.
Yep.
So maybe all the logs that you need for a pseudo forensic analysis are on the endpoints, but you're just not forwarding them all.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you do get an event, you can start forwarding them, and you can go back a week, right, and get all those as well forwarded to a SIM. And then you can start correlating those logs and say, okay, I can go back a week now, right, and see when the beginning of the attack was. You may be a day or two in or more, right? So yeah,
right.
just send send a command, and then all of a sudden you're starting to forward all the backlogs and enhance logging.
Right.
Yeah, huge fan of doing that approach. Another fun one, and this is way down the road. I don't know. We're gonna have to figure out how to put this in, but we're working on how to do analysis, like just kind of like what you talked about. Is making it so that people have the right thought patterns about like how to process logs. One of my favorite ones that a lot of people look at me kind of sideways is I love to reprocess the logs when they get archived. And the reason why I do that is 90 days ago, it might have been an O day. Now it's known. And so you would be surprised at how often you can catch stuff that you didn't know about. Now, it's rough, right? You've had that incursion for 90 days, but it's better to catch it 90 days out than never having caught it. And it's kind of cool. If you start getting creative with your logs, you can start telling some real interesting stories.
In what way? You mean like in terms of timeline, or yes, we've been breached, no, we haven't been breached? We're going to talk about some of the Okta stuff, which will obviously come into some of this. But is that what you're talking about, like in terms of timeline, or being able to more definitively say, X happened, Y happened, Z didn't happen, that kind of stuff?
No, I'm talking even more fundamental. I mean, hey, here's this new signature that we've got a couple weeks after the fact. Like here's one that drove me up a wall, right? You folks remember the NotPetya attack?
Right.
Everybody lost their mind on the NotPetya attack. And what drove me up a wall was about a week after, different vendors were like, hey, we detect NotPetya. Well, where were you in the moment of truth, right? You were every bit as running behind everyone else. But you caught it on day +7. Well, cool. You
Right.
can start doing that post-mortem analysis rather. And it's not ideal, but I'd rather catch it even way after the fact than not catch it at all.
Yeah.
Right.
So like the log4j, we had that signature. I forgot what day of the week it was, but we could go back 1 or 2 days and start seeing the signatures come through in the network, like all these attempts, right? So we knew exactly when they started, at least to our organization, and we didn't have to go back. Well, you look back months, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't see it until that one day. So you're pretty confident you caught everything. If you go back
Right.
several months and you don't see anything, right, until right at that point, and then it's all over the place.
Exactly.
It's pretty cool.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I'm looking back. I mean, you've been very active in the last, I don't know, couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Apparently getting a bunch of troll DMs,
Yes.
specifically about the Okta stuff. So,
yeah.
What are the troll DMs about? And I have actually something that came across my desk, as normally happens with PR stuff, that I wanted to ask you about and read out later. But what are they trolling you on? I mean, it's like you're talking about Okta breach, which actually occurred. What are they trolling you about?
Well, so first of all, I don't understand. I don't like feeding the trolls, but I do want to give a little bit of context to that tweet. So I had said, hey, here's what we know so far about the Okta breach. And I was on a webinar with John Strand, and it was the Black Hills talking about InfoSec news. And we had a good old time just chatting about things, and we were trying to put the whole Okta breach into context. And the next day, Okta provided a little more clarification on what had happened. And some of the things that we said weren't right. Like, we were just guessing based off of what they told us. And there were some people who said some hurtful things. Now, I want to be clear, I did not take offense. I just was like, man, it's kind of a spicy take. and they were throwing shade for like, oh, well, you got this wrong. I wonder what else you get wrong. Like, why you should feel
man.
bad, and why do you even get on the internet and make these pronouncements? Well, first of all, I didn't say. I want the record to show. I didn't
Right.
say like, oh, you need to throw out Okta, you need to do this, you need to do that. I said, hey, here's the things that I'm asking. Here's the questions that I got, and I've been very critical of Okta. I am not an Okta fanboy. I used to love Okta. Now, much less so. But I don't understand it. Like it legit. I am confused, and I don't understand why somebody would not make public comments and then snipe at somebody who does. And part of the reason that I let that out is I don't want somebody to receive those sorts of DMs and go, oh, you know what? Maybe I should be quiet too. Because I can't help but think that that's like that's a horrible way to live, one, but two, like
Yeah.
who benefits from that? Like is that like some sort of long-term psyops to like get people to shush up and not give good advice? Like, I don't know. It doesn't make a lick of sense. And so basically I was just sticking my tongue out at them and saying, hey, I'm not buying your arguments that I need to be quiet.
Right. Right. So this is the weird thing about Okta is we have spent, I don't know how many, almost a decade now, telling people to get rid of passwords. We need to go to SSO. We need to go to 2FA. We need to go to federated logins. We need to go OAuth flows, etc., to get rid of the passwords. And now we've got companies that are moving to getting away from passwords. So there's really Okta and Duo. I don't know. There are other 3P vendors out there, but those are the only ones that come to mind right now for terms of that. I mean, you could use an OAuth flow like a Google Drive or an Apple or a Microsoft login or something like that. But when Okta got breached, I got a couple of emails, and here's one I'll read specifically, and this won't take too long because it's not hard. But it's I'm gonna redact the person's name. He says, "Hi, my name is," and it is a he, CEO and co-founder of blah company. I have a PhD in computer engineering, and I'm an expert in the identity and authentication space, and have been running a team building identity and security technology for the past X number of years. I'm sure you've heard about the breach of Okta and their sourcing partner, Sitel. We've been working closely with blah for years, solving the security challenges of business process outsourcers like Sitel struggle with, so I'm deeply familiar with this space and particular companies. Both Okta and Sitel are best-in-class security orgs, and they've been getting dumped on and publicly shamed. A lot of mud is being slung. The slingers certainly do not have better security than these two. This is not an organizational or procedural failure. They did not make mistakes. Their teams weren't slacking, didn't cut corners or budgets that would have prevented this. For as long as we've had digital identities, the user has been a part of that security. If the user is compromised, the digital ID fails. This paradigm is what failed, as if all identity security is a square peg and this kind of event is a round hole. This should be about coming together to find a solution to a problem no one can solve right now, not pointing fingers and crying shame when it could have easily have been any logo in the headlines. I would be happy to hop on a call and discuss with you in more detail. If it's helpful, let me know a time that works best for you. So there's a lot going on here. I get these things all the time, like, oh, I'd like to come on to your show, or hi, I'm a PR company. Here's a white guy who wants to come on the show and stuff. Normally, I just turn them away because they're trying to bring on ML and blockchain. But this person wants to come on to defend both companies, and I don't know what his deal is. I've never seen anybody go like, well, I'm trying to get on to talk about defending these companies. It seems like I don't get it. So that's what made the whole thing about Okta really weird for me, because I've never actually seen somebody go, I'm here to just speak about in defense of Google, and because they're awesome, and they really get put upon and everything. And I'm like, how is Okta so much different than any other data breach that we've had in that respect? And to have somebody like this come on and want to come on a show and talk about these kind of things, it just boggled my mind enough that I did not delete this email, because I was like, what the hell is this? So that's it's just really weird how, and the problem is we are suggesting to people to move to these solutions, and now they're becoming the single point of failure for a lot of companies, where it's like we've put so much into it, kind of like when Facebook got hacked, or they blew up their BGP routes, and it screwed their building control systems and everything off. So Okta has become a single point of failure for a lot of companies because they've eschewed the password and using this for IDM. So maybe we have some of ourselves to blame here on this by trying to vehemently get rid of something like a password.
Well, there's a ton to unpack here. As you said.
Go ahead, please. Please, I'm sorry.
So first of all, I think that you know what? I'll tell you this. I'm going to dump on Okta because I really don't feel that they've done a good job of explaining what's happening.
You're right. Uh-huh. Yep.
And that's the thing that I wish that they would be held to a little more account. And I'm not seeing as much pressure there as I would like.
Okay.
I also, though, there's something kind of weird, and I don't know if this person uses Okta or not that wrote that mail, but I do know that there's something weird that's shifted in the last couple of years. And this was starting pre-pandemic. I would say like 2-3 years before the pandemic. So we're about year 5. It seems now that a lot of IT people turned into truck people. You know what I mean? Like, oh, right. Ford is better. Chevy. Oh no,
right.
Dodge. Like, what the hell's wrong with you? You're a communist if you don't like this. And it just feels to me like people have got like real tribal of late, and Okta can do no wrong. Microsoft Azure AD can do no wrong.
Right.
And I don't get it. They're all varying shades of broken, and you just got to find one that works for you.
Right. Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Mr. Betcher. You work more in a corporate environment than I do.
No, I really agree with what Mick said. They are varying shades of broken, and you got to find the right one that fits your needs, price, organization, support level, that sort of thing. Yeah, I mean, that's all it is, really.
Right. Right. So I'm reading through your backlog of tweets here, and somebody had also had mentioned that there is some communications issues here, and what I didn't quite understand with the timeline that was put out by I think his name is Bradbury. They waited 2 months for the forensic report from the third party to come back. What I'm wondering is, did the third party do something like promise them that absolutely nothing happened, and we're just doing the forensics report to verify that that was the case, and then it was like, oh shit, now we've got a report that says otherwise. We were hoping for the best case scenario so that this would have just been swept under the rug, because this is the trust issue, right? People are now like wondering if Okta is something they want to continue using. There's been numerous hand waving, and people are like, oh, you've completely destroyed my trust in your product, I'm going to move, which is bullshit. But you see those kinds of responses and you kind of laugh. But
so let's go over the timeline. Like they were allegedly breached,
right,
2 months ago.
Right. Well, their third party was.
Third party was. And there's part of the timeline that I actually think they should be pushing a little bit more, because my understanding is that one of the third party engineers got popped, and this account enrolled for an MFA that was new, and it was suspect, and they kicked it up as suspicious. They reviewed the alert, and then they suspended the account, and it was all within a very reasonable time frame.
Yeah, within 12 hours.
Yeah, like I think that that's actually Well, but they even identified it and kicked it up as a security issue in under like 20 minutes.
Oh no, I'm sorry. You're
So,
right. I was looking at the 1800
yeah,
part. So yeah, 2318
yeah,
on the 20th of January by 0018, which was 18 minutes after midnight. The on the Okta service desk added to the incident containing the user's account, and then
yeah.
by ODark 30, they terminated the Okta's user sessions and suspended the account immediately. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I see. This is such a weird case because the act one of this that we know so far, man, that's actually pretty baller, and I think that um, might have set them on a wrong path of thinking how they handled things. Like, oh, we're aces, we got this handled, we're good, and then it looks like they kind of fell asleep. And that's where that 2 months time window gets really hard to defend. And I don't understand. I really do not understand why you would crush it and respond so quickly and so well, and then pooch it so hard. And the whole thing where it really hops the rails for me is in that report they call out that they have analyzed 125,000 logs.
Right, I saw that too.
Like, what the hell? What in the hell does that mean? Like, I can generate 125,000 logs like that if y'all want. Like, what are those logs? Like, oh man, I'm gonna get an aneurysm.
Depends on what that is. Is it a log or is it an event that they keep
Right.
calling a log?
Right.
People get
Right.
those confused all the time.
Well,
So-
but anyway, like, just talking raw numbers, man, I could turn on event tracing for Windows and generate that in under 5 minutes flat, and there's zero context on that. Like, it's
Yeah.
oh,
So my
man.
thought, my question was with that 125,000 logs, and I mentioned this during earlier streams this week and last. Did they maybe pare it down? You know, maybe they had 5 million log entries and they pared it down to the 125,000 that were important enough. So having worked at the company I work at for the last year and having to deal with PR people, they're trying to keep this as short and sweet as possible, and it seems like that they might have forgotten or left out a few things, or they didn't want to get too technical with folks, and they said, well, we'll just say 125,000 because that sounds like a lot. Now, for folks in infosec, especially folks who do incident response or knows a little bit about logging, 125,000 log entries is nothing. It's 100% zero. They could have been 70 million logs, but it would have been like, maybe it would have been too much to grok for Joe Six-Pack average person in this case. I had some issues with some of the math, like, how did they pare this down to 366 customers, and which is 2.5% of the customers in Okta. So, and then I read another part where there was like, oh, they have 50,000 or so customers, and that represents some. There was a bit jankiness with the math and stuff. And what I'm trying to figure out is why was such a specific number here, whereas, in other places in this press release, they get real generic, like more than 125,000. Okay, so they say more than 125,000. So is it 126,500 or is it really 5 million? It's real janky. And having worked with some PR folks in the past, 6 months, you start seeing weird shit like this where it's like, you can understand now why things sometimes don't make a lot of sense when they get pushed out.
Right.
But yeah, let me see if there's been any updates on the Okta blog. So they updated the post on the 20th.
Just blown out of proportion just because they are a security company. I mean, security companies get probably breached worse than this.
Yeah.
Right? Is it just bad PR on their part?
I think it is.
Yeah.
Now, I realize this is armchair quarterbacking. I want to be very clear about that.
Right.
But
right.
I do feel that, they could have been out in front of this message a lot more.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing was it's been exacerbated by the web conferences that they did, or the webinars that they did. I heard that there was one that happened like early in the morning Pacific time, and then they did pretty much the same thing again at 4 p.m. the next day.
Yep.
They just read, it was
Same
like
day.
a 7-minute webinar. They read pretty much, I think they said the blog post statement that was on the website, and that was it. And I'm like, that's not helpful. You should have question and answer session, or you should have a reactive QA so that you can talk to media, or maybe invite some media folks on who can like a press conference. I mean, freaking president can have a press conference and get grilled by media. Why can't they get a reactive QA or something like that, where they can say, they'll have those kinds of questions answered?
Yeah. So I don't run Okta, but if I did, what I would have done is those 2 webinars would have been handled very, very, very differently. Number one, they need a visual timeline of here's exactly what happened, here's what we know. If there's any unknowns, be honest, say like, hey, here's some things that we're still running down. And the fact that they've not been sharing that, like that they've got it all figured out, that kind of worries me, because having worked a lot of incidents over my career, you don't know what you don't know for quite some time. It takes a long, long time to get down to here's everything that we got. And I don't know. I feel like this really reads like PR and lawyers have been running point on this. And like, I just need more context. I need more understanding.
So Mick, do you need more context and understanding because you've got customers asking you these questions as being a consultant, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. Well, here's a perfect one. On Friday, had a client call me up and they said, "Hey, we haven't been emailed by Okta. Does that mean we're okay?" Because that's what they said in the webinar. They said, "We will reach out to you if there's problems."
Right.
How about like, hey, just want to let y'all know, we looked through the logs. You weren't one of the 366 folks that got impacted, or orgs. And like that, I don't know. Like, I just, I hope that when I have my moment of truth that I do a little bit better. I don't know, but I just feel like there's a lot of like lessons to learn off of this one.
Do you think that this is cause for concern from consultancies that have said, "Hey, you should use Okta. They're a good tool." So you've got companies out there that are third-party solution identifiers, or solution coordinators or resellers of Okta, and now that are they getting more or less information than the public are about the issue? I see this as a reputational kind of damage thing, where it's like, you told us Okta was good, and now Okta's been breached. WTF? Does that mean you're trash too?
Well, I think Justin Elzy put it best when he said, "Look, most orgs expect to get breached, right? That just happens. That's part and parcel. The issue is how you address it. What do you do? Do you own it? Do you take changes? Do you learn from it?" And it just, I feel like if Okta's learning, I don't know what they're learning. I would love to hear, hey, here's the changes that we've made to our environment.
Right.
Or here's the ideas here's the changes we're going to make.
Right.
I'm not hearing any of that.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, this isn't the first company.
Saying that in some ways they really weren't breached? It was a third party.
Well,
and it's not really that important, or they didn't take it that way. And now by not saying stuff, you allow the media to sort of fill in the blanks for them. and then the PR thing comes into play, and now they're playing catch up and all that, but they still think internally there's no big deal because we weren't breached. It was someone else, but they had access to stuff. They had access to some of our customers. It was only 300 out of, a million, whatever it was.
So here's my take on this. Whether or not you like, I know this might alienate some of the folks, but I definitely love sports, right? And what I liken this over and over again to is a team might have won a game, but they're not going back and looking at the tape. They're not reviewing, like, hey, like if we ran this play differently, we could have done better. And I'm not getting that from them. That's the problem that I'm having, is that there's no sorts of, hey, here's what we've learned. Here's
Right.
the only thing that I think that they learned was that 2-month window while they were waiting for the IR report to be done, they said, oh, that was a bit long. That was one of the things that was said in that webinar when I listened in on the morning of it. It was 2 in the same day, and in the morning when they were like, yeah, that one was too long
Our
to
bad.
wait.
Right.
Click, like, and it was done. Like, I don't understand that. Like, given their position and the outsized role they play in like a lot of org security stacks, what really should have happened was, hey, here's what we know, here's what we're working on, and now I am going to answer every damn question until y'all are satisfied. And if there's
Right.
repeats, I'm going to say, hey, that's a repeat. Here's the answer. Because given what they do, like, you need them to stand and deliver. And I'm not advising anybody to rip and replace them, but I don't think of them as the octa that I used to recommend with like both thumbs up. Now I'm kind of like,
Yeah. The one thing that I reread through some of this. Hey, Chemist Security, how you doing? So thank you for following us. One of the chats says it's weird hearing this at regular speed instead of at 1.5 speed. I appreciate that. I do listen to some podcasts at 1.5 speed.
I'll talk a little bit faster so that you can have that experience, okay? If that's all right.
No, I want to slow it down a little and make it non-listenable. No. Thank you, Chemist Security. Also, I'd like to thank Martin Blank and Netter86 for following us as well. Little housekeeping there, sorry. So the press release says, I'm greatly disappointed by the long period of time that transpired between our notifications to Sitel and the issuance of the complete investigation report. Upon reflection, once we received the summary report, we should have moved more swiftly to understand its implications. So it took almost 2 months to make a response. And one thing I would like to bring up is they really only moved on this because Lapsus shared the screenshots. That's in my opinion, that's it. If they had not shared those screenshots, we would not have even potentially known to this day. And for those of you listening, they arrested 7 people who may or may not have been part of Lapsus, but the people that were mentioned in several of the news articles are not stupid, and they know their business. So if they said it's them, I believe them, Allison Nixon being one of them. So, but yeah, so they would have sat on this longer, I believe, because there was no reason to rush it. Yeah, and I think some of the comments on Twitter and stuff were like, were they notifying customers on the back end, or were they doing anything? Maybe the forensic report was going to be done next week, and then it'll be done next week, and then it'll be done next week, and then by this time they're like, oh shit, what are we going to do now? It's been a month and they haven't given us anything. Daily calls like, where the f is where the f is that report? Oh, we'll get it to you next week. Yeah, it's rough, They said the screenshots that Lapsus gave were not in the report, and they were taken from a support engineer from Sitel. The scenario is analogous to walking away from your computer at a coffee shop, whereby a stranger virtually sat down to your machine and was using the mouse and keyboard. So, what, they get hacked by TeamViewer or something like that? Sounds like, they had,
Guessing they had like some sort of like RDP type style
Yeah.
access. Like, I
Yeah,
don't know
that
if it
makes
was
sense.
TeamViewer or VNC or whatever, but
Yeah.
like
it's. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I said it's interesting to see some of the back end stuff that they're talking about here. They say, majority of support engineering tasks are performed using an internally built application called SuperUser SU, which can perform basic functions, does not provide godlike access. So, they pretty much had like Pridesk on a box that allowed them to do additional stuff as a support person. So, yeah. Anyway, that was my only comment there. So. Please continue.
Well, my take is, if that analogy holds, that it's like you're at a coffee shop and somebody had keyboard and mouse access, I would want to know. That's
Right.
the long and short of it. And that's where I think they don't get it. Like, they just keep on minimizing it. It's like, oh, well, it would be like that. Yeah. You know what? I'd want to know. Tell me. And maybe they were. Maybe they did notify the 366. And if you're at one of those orgs and you were notified before the pop, like, that's awesome. If they've got you on some sort of NDA that you can't share, I understand. But I do think it's a little weird that nobody stood up and said, hey, we did get the notification. I would have expected that to have come out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, part of some of the streams that I've been doing earlier this month, things like Nvidia came out, Ubisoft getting hacked, Vodafone, and those, and and then this came out, and the only thing I could think of was, well, that's how they got in, because everybody was like, we don't know how Nvidia got popped, or we don't know this thing, and I was like, could it possibly be that they were owned, because Lapsus was involved with Nvidia, and Lapsus was involved with the Microsofts, the Azure stuff. They were all involved with this, and I was like, they're burning their ace, if you will, and then I think they overplayed their hand by putting out that computer engineer picture. I think they could have continued getting away with it if they had not done that. I think that, and having poor OPSEC, but that's beside the point. But yeah, it's interesting, all of the systems that were owned, like Nvidia and those, and getting their code dropped and all that. And maybe we'll see that in the postmortem, that Nvidia was, kind of like when SolarWinds happened, Mandiant was like, oh, we got hacked, and they're like, no, wait, we didn't get hacked. SolarWinds got hacked, but we got hacked because of it, or something like that. This is exactly like SolarWinds all over again.
Well, we'll find out.
Right. Well, it feels like the same kind of playbook. So, I wish I had a water break, but I'll just have to breathe. One of the things I've learned during all the streaming was I will forget to breathe sometimes. So either I have to remind myself to breathe, or I have a big thing of water that I sit down and I do the stuff with. So let me see. So you had.
It's okay to have dead air. It's really okay. Let's do 5 seconds of dead air. I just want to see you squirm. Do it. See, that wasn't too bad.
I'm feeling lightheaded.
All right, so you said that I had a tweet.
You said you had a tweet. One of them was about, you've been getting calls from customers or clients saying, hey, I've been hacked, or, because this to give you an idea, this I think was almost a month ago, back when Russia, started being more of a dick to the world and invaded Ukraine. You said, you've got customers asking you about whether or not you should be worried about being hacked by Russia. do you think that there are a ton of companies out there that should be worried about that, or do the people who know that they're in the crosshairs of Russia are already aware of that? Are there companies out there that like, oh, they wouldn't hack us? There's no reason to hack us, or is that something that people should be worried about?
So let's start approaching this from a couple ways. First of all, if you're a normal person online doing your normal online banking and paying your bills online, Russia's not going to hack you. They're just not. I was on my local news station about that, and they said,
Right.
"Well, couldn't Russia do that?" No, technically they could, but they don't care. Russia is not coming for you. Sorry, you're just not that important.
There's like 6
Right.
billion other targets out there.
Exactly. Now, what Brian said is absolutely correct. Are you dealing with a situation where you are expected to be in the crosshairs? Yes. There are certain orgs that are going to be under the crosshairs, right? Surprise, surprise. Ukrainian targets are being targeted, but they've been targeted by Russia for quite some time now. So that's not news. So too with NATO member institutions, they've been targeted by Russia. Oh no, put on your surprise face.
Right.
Where things go sideways though is people hear that and they say, oh, well, my dog, man, Russia's not coming after us. We're sweet. And that is not how the internet works, y'all. Just because you aren't going to be the target of Russia doesn't mean that you're not somebody else's target. And one of the things that drives me up a wall is a lot of defenders do a really, really bad job of understanding how attackers are motivated and what they are gunning for.
Right.
And yes, there are attackers that will target folks, and they're targeting you and only you, and there's not a thing you can do to divert them from you. You just do your best defense, make things as detectable as possible, and you're good to go. But for other folks, you need to be more worried about the to whom it may concern style attack. If you've patched N-1 and the attackers have a really good tool that goes after that one that you missed, they're going to get you. Attackers are either targeting you or they're opportunistic. And that makes it really tough as a defender because you're going to have to defend against the targeted attacks and the opportunistic ones as well. And what a lot of people hear is Russia's not gunning for us, sweet. And they just kind of do business as usual. And that's part of the reason why so many companies and so many organizations are compromised, is that they think that they only need to be better than the peers in their industry. If I had $1 for every time somebody asked me, well, where do we stack up among our peers? Okay, you're better, but have you read the news lately? Your peers are getting popped with ransomware. So yeah, you're not face planting immediately, but oh yeah, okay, that's what you want to know. Okay, you're better than them. Good job. It just doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm getting a little jaded about that question.
Well,
yeah,
it's can you run from the lion faster than the other gazelle, right? Something like that. You mentioned opportunistic, right? You're less of an opportunity, I guess. So, but on the other side, targeting, how much of that is potentially competitors?
Well, it might not be competitors. The thing is, okay, it might be that, but most often where I think people misunderstand a targeted attack against them is that just because you might not have sensitive data doesn't mean that you aren't the target of a more advanced attacker. There have been many cases where social media companies were targeted because they would use that to pivot into their actual goal, right? I used to work at OCLC. This is public record, right? It's on my LinkedIn and whatever. I loved working there. WorldCat, what's up? Keep doing your good work, crew. At OCLC, we were a library not-for-profit that helped facilitate library technologies, right? Technically, we should be everybody's best friend. Nobody wants to destroy libraries. And yet, we were under some of the most advanced attacks all day, every day, because people would use our insane bandwidth, use our resources, and also a lot of the libraries had partnerships with different organizations, whether it was universities or even private companies or governments. And we made a hell of a good pivot. And so a lot of organizations don't understand that an attacker is using them as a pivot. I've had I can't even say what market vertical they were in. It was a manufacturing company that, like, when they said, hey, the FBI contacted us and said that we've been compromised, we're totally confused that we would be compromised. We don't have, like, stuff we manufacture is old and everybody knows how to make it. The only reason they go with us is we're a brand name and we can out compete people on the price. And all of that was true. And yet, as soon as I did the incident response, I realized that they were attacking them because they had an amazing government contract. And they were using this manufacturer of these, like, the patents had all expired. I mean, it was nothing. Like, they were right. We don't have any secret sauce. We're still a very major player in this space because of who we are. And they were just pivoting off of them. And so I think that many people would do really well to sit down and chat with somebody who has done IR for a while, because you're thinking of it wrongly. Attackers aren't always going to get the data. They aren't always getting the ransomware. Sometimes you're a jumping off point. That's rough.
Yeah, and I think Okta is a prime example of that. Okta has good security controls, so they got hit through the third party,
Yeah.
Which is how normally a lot of these breaches have come out. SolarWinds, not to bring Target up again, but that was how Target got hacked. And it's always going to be in many cases, it's going to be a third party before it's someone else, right? So Kim Security said, better than them, try saying you're less horrible than others, but you're still pretty horrible. So I replied back, I was like, we're the best worst we know, or something like that. So, it's like, it's just like second place is the best loser or whatever. So
best smelling corpse in the graveyard, I guess.
that is very true. Yes. Best smelling corpse. Yeah. Okay. I'm getting lightheaded. Okay, I tried some more Dead Space. Okay, I tried some more Dead Space.
Couldn't do it.
I'm just dying inside. Now I'm scrolling back through a lot of your stuff. I mean, you've hit all the high points pretty much in the last month or so. Automated tools, the tribism of InfoSec. Yeah, that's one of the things that I got I wouldn't say drawn into, but I did reply to, was the lack of what appears to be new voices or the echo chambers at on Twitter and InfoSec and in conferences, and people had mentioned things like so our podcast, I tried to bring on as many new voices as I can, but there's obviously a different dynamic in conferences where people will only show up if the Kardashians are speaking, the Kardashians of InfoSec, if you will. And I use Kardashians because it's a train wreck on the Kardashians, so I assume it's a train wreck in InfoSec. But there are people that only go to conferences because they know specific people will be speaking at that conference. And I don't mean like they're friends or whatever, but it's right. Like, that person's there. It's why RSA gets, shit for like, having somebody who doesn't know anything about security keynoting it. It's like, are they really a security conference? That kind of thing.
But on the flip, I hate to throw shade at this. So I went to a conference where they touted that we will have only new presenters.
Yeah.
It was rough, y'all. It was really, really rough.
Mhm.
Part of the reason that the names draw is that you are going to be like there's an edutainment quality to it that makes it very interesting. And I don't know. It is it. I
It's a
struggle with
double-edged
it.
sword, right? It's
I really
like
do.
Broadway versus a high school play.
Yeah.
It's like watching the high school version of Wicked versus, Indina Menzel playing, Elphaba or what have you.
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. And you're going to have people up there and they're going to be like sweating and they're like, hi, welcome to Fun with Flags.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. It's one reason I've always kind of touted the podcast as being a little more new speaker safe and new speaker friendly because as an audio podcast before you can say what you want and you can still hide behind somewhat of an anonymity, but yeah, I think and I'm not selling this, but we're always out looking for new people, so and new voices, and I think that things like this are better because you don't have a couple of hundred people sitting in front of you. You can kind of work up to it. Our meetup is the same way. But do you worry that, so to flip the script back in our direction, having only the same 5, 10, 15 people at every conference, and all those people are great. The 5, 10, 15 that you think I'm thinking of, they're all great. I have no problem with it. I love them. They've probably been on our show once or twice, for obvious reasons. They are a draw, sadly. Do you worry that if we don't have that new speaker track, that we're going to run into stagnation in our industry?
I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with having and celebrating excellence, however you measure it.
Right.
And as long as those people that are the frequent flyers are giving factually correct info that
Right.
is actually helping move the needle, I think that's cool.
Yep.
Where I start having problems is, and I am not going to name any names, but I have had to like send DMs to folks because I've seen their talk or I saw them on YouTube and they said things that just flat out weren't true. Like maybe it was dated, it was true at one time, or it never was true, or hey, they maybe misspoke,
Right.
And for some folks, they address that and get it fixed, and then other folks, they've just kind of flipped it, and they're famous for being famous, and I worry because it's really tough in this field for somebody to know, is this person an active practitioner that can stand and deliver, or is this somebody who can say things convincingly? And what I would like there to be is some sort of for lack of a better term, like a farm team system, like baseball, for all its faults, actually does a really good job of, having a talent development pipeline where you can
Right.
play in the minor leagues and work your way up through, single A, double A, triple A, and then take a crack at the majors. And I wish that there were some way of doing that with InfoSec. I also, to mix sports metaphors, I kind of wish that we had an equivalent of how the English Premiership has that relegation.
Oh, yeah.
You have promotion. If you're doing great as a minor league club, you can become a pro league club.
That's right.
But if you do poorly as a pro league club, you get kicked back down to the minors. And I feel that there needs to be some equivalent of that. And I don't know how that would work in a conference.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I just think I could also see like, veteran speakers. What I love is like what B-Sides LV was doing. And I actually thought about submitting one year was like, you have a mentor and you have a mentee and you have, folks, hey, I'm a new speaker. I've never spoken before. I don't speak a lot. I spoke a couple times at a local B-Sides or something like that. And, have veteran speakers tied, not tied, but, hooking up with folks who don't speak well, so that way they can help carry the room or to help build confidence in that person. I really think that that's a great thing that we could do. And I understand that not a lot of conferences have the ability to implement things like that. But yeah, that, the people who can go to those conferences and speak all the time are in such a position to allow for that. I know that there are, I would say probably 90% of InfoSec or incident response people. Sorry, Kim. Yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, so I mean, I would say the vast majority of InfoSec people don't go to conferences, or they.
100%.
Yeah, I didn't. And it's one of those things that if you're not on social media, if you are, you may check your LinkedIn once in a while, but we don't do a real good job in many cases of advertising conferences or, helping people understand the benefit of those conferences.
I'm going to say something, like you've been getting me to say spicy things. I'm going to throw one real hell of a spicy thing here. I think that that would be a disastrous idea. I think that hacker culture needs to own that hacker culture is not InfoSec. They are two very different things.
Okay.
And if you look at the times that they try to mingle, it is disastrous. If you were doing a conference that was really geared toward InfoSec, at least as the broader IT security functions are done,
right.
You would have about 2/3 of the tracks on GRC issues,
right,
and then that 1/3 would get split up amongst like
IAM,
like vuln scans and oh my gosh, yeah, IAM track would just derail, right? And like and then there would be a talk on pen testing.
Right.
And that's the thing that I kind of struggle with is I greatly enjoy going to the conferences, and I'm really like just prior to the pandemic, I had kind of dialed back from going to the conferences just because I was getting a little burned out. I now need it. I need to be among my peeps. But I am reminded yet again though that there's a very sharp distinction between those two crowds.
Right. You've got so let's talk about that. A hacker conference is schmoo, whereas an IT security conference would be a B-Sides or, God help you, an ISC squared conference event.
Yeah, ISACA, ISSA, like those sorts of groups are like
the respectable conferences.
Here's the delineation. Here's my litmus test. And man, I feel bad. Like InfraGard, I love y'all. You do great work. But here's what you do. You ask somebody, hey, InfraGard news flashes. What do you think? And if they're like, oh, awesome. You're like, okay, you go in this, you go to here. And if you're like, oh, this thing's stale as all hell, right? And cards face up InfraGard. I understand why their style is all hell. I feel for you. That's unfortunate. But don't sell it for what it is. Like, be honest, it's stale intel.
The next week, the InfraGard report will be on this company called Octa or something that got breached. So yeah. So that makes sense. So the IT security crowd, hello security, can you patch it on or patch and remove again or whatever. I ruined that joke. Sorry. That's for the IT security crowd, and the hacker ones are things that do not have a professional organization behind them.
Sure.
There's the compliance crowd and the certification crowd, and then there's the hacker crowd.
Sure. Yeah. And I realize that that's probably going to anger some folks. And there is overlap. There are people who are working in IT and go to the hacker cons, but by and large, a lot of the hacker conferences, they draw enthusiasts who might be IT, but might not. I mean, look at DEF CON. It's a party with some security stuff.
Right. Yeah, I mean, let me see all that. One, it was either the last DerbyCon or the one before that. I had signed up for some Python training, and I had been a PM. I was working on Leviathan still. I had been there about a year and a half, and I signed up for the training thinking, oh, it's going to be cool. I'm going to get in there. I'm going to learn some stuff. I was completely lost after like a day and a half, and then I was like, damn, I wasted a seat that somebody else more knowledgeable and more hungry could have used. I mean, I didn't even stay for the CTF. I was like, I had no dude's super smart. He knew everything. I was completely lost, and it was Python for OS hacking, and I thought that would actually be useful. You can go look it up. I think it was Spencer Geitzen, maybe not. Anyway, but it was a great class. You could tell that there was definitely some good content there, but I was just completely lost, and I was like, I knew it was like me, sitting in an astrophysics class asking about stars or something, and they go, "Oh, you're so quaint." And I realized at that point that I will never take training again at a conference because it's obviously not for me because I'm a filthy security TPM now. So. But yeah, I realize that, and that's that, and people are sad to see DerbyCon go, but I think it went at the right time. Um, this would have been the first year. It probably would have been back at the Marriott because it would have been impossible to do otherwise. 2019 was a perfect year for it to go away. And I think it was like the episode of Seinfeld. Everybody wants to see Seinfeld come back, but it went at its height of popularity. So what's the new replacement for DerbyCon? I keep hearing things like 614, Blue Team Con. Shmoo's never going to replace it because you can't ever get a ticket. What is the Wild West Hackin' Fest? I'm moving to San Diego next year, so Far West Hackin' Fest will be definitely in my backyard. So that'll be nice to see. Is the Far West and the Wild West the same kind of temperament as what you saw at DerbyCon, or because I haven't been to it, I assume you have.
Very different. It's the closest in spirit, but they're different.
Okay.
DerbyCon was DerbyCon.
Right.
The Wild West Hackin' Fests, I don't know. It's kind of close. It's the closest I know of to DerbyCon.
Right.
I do like the one that we have in Columbus, the Hackers Teaching Hackers. That one's a very village focused one that again, different than Derby, but it's super fun, and I'm always proud to sponsor that. I don't know. Some of the B-sides are pretty interesting. Like I've not made it there, but I love watching the talks at B-sides Augusta. Like that one's a very different B-sides event.
Yeah, you can play Spot the Fed there pretty easily. So.
Well, it's pretty. Yeah, it's like you got a fair shot at it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's the guy with the laundered suit and tie, and actually he showered last night. So yeah. I've been a big fan of. We have B-side Seattle that's out here. I've also been to ones like Defend Con. And I'm hoping to get out to 614 or DerCon or something like that, just to be able to use my travel budget. But yeah, we need like another good conference out here on the West Coast that isn't RSA or something. Far West is there. There's Sands and Ions events up here, but they're not really open to the public. I guess Sands Fires, or the San Diego one where I got my GCIH that time. But yeah, we need another good big conference out here. I know we have PDX or besides PDX in Seattle, but it's just not the same. Anyway. All right, so let me go. I had one other thing I think we could probably talk about, and then we'll go. Okay, so this one came on March 17th, and it says, I don't even know where to start this rant. It's more of a plea. InfoSec folks, you've got to stop thinking in terms of absolutes. I think the greatest flaw we have in the biz right now is dogma. Let perfection be the enemy of good. You said there's no such thing as secure. You can, however, make something tamper evident. You can make something resilient. Okay, so.
What the hell kind of a pompous ass would even write something like that? It's me.
Is Mick Douglas?
Oh boy.
Yeah, something.
Yep.
Yeah. So security is hard, and I have learned that. We've had a couple of shows talking about things like IoT security. Working with product security myself, I understand things now that I did not understand before. And there's probably some podcasts that I wish I could go back and Control Z and say, the person who said this obviously doesn't understand how product security works, or sometimes doesn't work. And all we can do is, make something tamper evident. We can make something resilient. We're not going to make something completely secure because you won't have a product then.
Dude, if you can go back, and you don't do that for every podcast, but just go through a couple and do that, splice in for serious, pause it, and say, hey, y'all, I didn't know this. I think that would be a huge win.
Right,
this is future me here.
Alton Brown, he went back and did some redesigns of his Good Eats stuff, and every time he'd interject, he'd be like, listen to this dumbass try to tell you something that's completely incorrect now, or this was the prevailing opinion at the time. Don't blame me. Don't shoot that particular messenger or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it is hard to do product security, and you can and you can want perfect security, but you will not be able to use that product, especially, if you are, the reason that there are vulnerabilities are because people have to create stuff that people want to use, or there won't be a product. And it's something that it's weird things that you learn, and just, there's a balance. Yeah. And sometimes there's not really a balance. You know what I mean? We'll fix it in post is only there because they didn't even know that they should even think about those things, or what have you. So yeah, it's interesting. I think product security for me was one of the last great frontiers, because I'd done a lot of things, and probably didn't do a lot of them very good, but I know enough that it's there's a lot of opinions that I've held in the last 3-4 years that I've been I was a jerk. And but yeah.
You know what though? That's good. That's showing that you've got personal growth, right? But it is tough. And I think that what the problem that I struggle with is that security in and of itself isn't hard. Doing security, though, in a real world scenario where there's economic pressure is damn near impossible.
Right.
It is 100%. real easy to design, hey, here's how you secure the thing. But that thing might take an additional 12 months, 18 months to configure and get running the way that it needs to be perfect.
Right.
And in that time, if somebody beats y'all to market, guess what? First to market wins. And so it is really, really humbling to do InfoSec. it just like you're always a lot of times I feel that I'm choosing the least bad option. And
Right.
now I still hate the CISSP test, but I at least understand the logic behind
Yep.
pick
Yep.
this least bad option because that's a
Right.
lot of what InfoSec is.
Right. Yeah. Taking so my PMP, I was trying for the PMP because I was told that you need to have certifications like that to make it work. So I couldn't pass it, so I just went to the Agile side and got my Scrum Master certs. But you know, they have a risk management in their system, and it is all about whether or not they can actually deliver. A lot of our security risk management isn't about delivering something; it's about reducing the risk or reducing the harms, but um, the risk that we're trying to do is not moving the progress forward on the process. It sometimes is halting that. So yeah, there's it's really odd, the need to be secure. Everybody thinks, at least has been in the last few years. Everybody thinks that they can automate away the security, or they can add a technical fix to something, when security could be just as simple as we have process that says you can't do that, and we'll set up some audit trails, but some of it can be processed away or policied away or something like that, instead of trying to put in a bunch of extra code. And I think that's where we run into some issues.
I don't know how we can even reply to that other than say, "Hell yeah,"
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you're spot on. I mean, it's the the main critique that I have for InfoSec is that a lot of times organizations will fall into this, hey, we've got this change window, so we have to solve this, get it right, and that's it. Like we're never going to go back and change this thing ever.
right,
And so, I mean, and I want to be clear, right? There are organizations and situations where that's the case, right? If you're making a like an interstellar probe, like right, you're working at NASA, JPL, you're going to shoot that satellite or that thing out into the cosmos. Hell yeah, you got to get that right. But
yeah,
or you're doing code for a nuclear reactor. Hell yeah, you got to get that right. But for most of us, oh, you mean we just need to readjust this form field? Okay, let's tweak and we're done.
right,
Well,
right,
and don't confuse one for the other. Even if it's like a lot of money at stake, you still can adjust. Um, I don't know. I've seen so many security practitioners fall into this. Well, if it's not perfect, then like why are we even here?
right, right. Part of us moving or shifting left into being earlier in the timeline sounds great, but if we're adopting agile or like CI/CD type methodologies in security, security needs to also think from a terms of what can be done in the time frame allowed, and treat security as an iterative process. If we're trying to fix everything at once, that's why we get resistance. That's why obviously we got 10 things that need to get done. Okay, and you get enough discussion or process, none of them are going to get done. So you have to treat those, and that's part of the risk management, risk reduction, those kinds of things, that you have to treat it as an iterative process, as something that's constantly evolving, constantly changing, and keep your eye out for new technologies or new ways to automate those processes, like what we had with Shannon and Stacy a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, there's also if you can't get things done and it's another team that you're relying on, which in a lot of cases it is, IT,
Oh yeah,
right?
yep, yep,
That could be a resource risk, and you have to highlight that as well. That is a security
right,
risk. If you don't have the staff on hand to reduce your risks, for example, vulnerabilities, then your resource risk is enhanced, right? As
Right.
well as your vulnerability risk.
Yep. Sometimes resource risk can be worse than the vulnerability risk because, you may need the manpower to be able to fix those issues. So, I don't know. Mick, is there anything else you want to talk about? I mean, oh yeah, we're not over because most good Twitch streams go 90 minutes, 2 hours or something, but it's a little long for us on the podcast. So what we'll probably do is I'll just take a couple snippets of audio from about 30 minutes each and keep going. But you're not in a. I think the last time you and I talked, you were in a hotel room. Is that a hotel room?
And I
Austin.
am in a hotel room again.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's awfully nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So I'm traveling again about once a month. I'm traveling again.
Okay. How does it
It's
make you
weird.
feel?
So in the before times, I was at about 75% travel,
Mm-hmm.
and I have totally lost the muscle memory. I used to be so much more efficient. I had the gate check for my week of everything, and then I had all my electronics in my backpack or in my roller that I could get aboard the plane. Now I need a freaking huge checked bag, like it's amateur hour over
Oh, that's too bad.
here. I have lost the skills. It's good to be on the road though.
Yeah. You miss the fun?
I did. I am one of those people that thrives on being in a different environment all the time, and being on the road is a great way for that. I do miss my I got a puppy during the pandemic, so I miss my pandemic pup. But other than that, I like being on the road.
Okay. Yeah. I am so my company's like, oh yeah, we should probably have a get together and let's fly down to LA, and I was like, okay, great. And they're like, oh, it's in 1620 May, and I'm just freaking out because I don't like traveling by myself. I mean, we actually went and caught between the Omicron and Delta windows there in Europe for COVID. We actually took a 2-week vacation in France and made that happen. But it was different, we were going on vacation, but this thing going for work, it's weird. It's like I don't want to go and hang out with people I work with. I don't want to go and meet these people. I'm fine with them on my Zoom every day, where I don't have to worry about seeing them. But yeah, going and seeing these people face to face is like I'm a little wigged out about that. It's odd.
So I'll tell you the weirdest thing about that is if you've never met a person in person.
Uh-huh.
I need to wordsmith that, but you know what I meant.
That is weird in and of itself.
Yeah, but if you've never met that person in real life, one of the weirdest things is you're like, oh, you're taller than I thought you'd be, or you're shorter than you thought you'd be. Like it's really weird not having and maybe I'm a heightist, I don't know, but it's just I'm always I pictured you as being taller.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to thank Mr. Minus for following us there. Thank you for following us. Hope you're finding value in this. We'll probably run a rerun of this on Tuesday or something. But yeah, I was glad that I could work remotely. And when we move down to San Diego, there might actually be a couple times where I'll have to have to fly to the Bay Area or to other places for work issues. But I actually liked working remote. I didn't have a problem working remote. When I moved up here to Seattle, I was still working with Mr. Betcher at the place we were at, and then worked there for 9 months and then got picked up at CrowdStrike, and I worked for 3.5 years and didn't go into the office. So I was okay with working remote. My thing is, it's like I'm in a room with people I don't know, and even though I see them every day, it's different than when you could actually go into the office and see these people from time to time. And yeah, it's just, I don't know why I'm ranting about it. It's just really weird. So
What you should do is just periodically like cover your eyes and say, "Hey, I'm turning off the camera," and then you get up and like let them see that you're still wearing your pajama bottoms and fuzzy slippers.
It's a good idea.
That's
Yeah.
that's how it should.
Yeah, well, if they actually did see it, everything behind me is pretty much workout gear, which is how I staved off the pandemic myself. But yeah, I mean, I'd have to clean up my office because there's elastic bands and some dial-in weights and my weight bench and everything. Yeah, it's not a pretty sight. So, but yeah. What's this? Martin says, apparently we all missed out on Will Smith decking Chris Rock live on the Oscars. Oh, shit. Guess we'll have to catch the replay of that. I would actually like to see that. That'd be pretty funny. Well, obviously it wasn't funny to Chris Rock, but we'll see. Let me see. What to log? Yeah, okay. So I posted a link further up in the chat about your local media appearance. So for somebody, I see people on Seattle news all the time when they're talking about cybersecurity incidents, and I keep looking at this person and go, I don't know who the hell you are. Because he's like, it's not a you, or it's not a John Strand, or it's not a Dave Kennedy, or somebody like that. It's not somebody that I know. And that we're going back to the veteran speaker thing, but there are so many cybersecurity people that the local media know that it's like, who the hell are these people?
Right.
I've never heard of your company, that kind of thing. How did you get involved with the local media? Do you know somebody there, or what does it take to become somebody that I know on TV? Because Mr. Betcher, we could have him on as our media arm. So,
in my case, it was somebody that I knew. So, a college buddy of mine, he's a producer at a local TV station, and I've just I won't say exactly who, but they had somebody on their show and they gave some horrific advice, like just out and out wrong advice. And I finally said, look, I've been gently saying, hey, have me on, but like this was wrong, this was wrong, this was wrong. And I'm guessing I'm not going to be the only name or person that you hear from. And there were quite a few complaints.
Nice.
And so they said, all right, when we have the opportunity to, we'll get you on. And so it lined up because they, and it was super fun. It was actually pretty interesting. It was like a 15-minute interview, super fast, in, out, and done. And I highly recommend it if anybody gives you the opportunity to do it and you feel comfortable chatting with folks about this sort of stuff, give it a go.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, if you don't like talking in front of a hacker conference, you definitely will enjoy talking to media.
So the thing was, it was nice because I was still in my own home, and the guy actually did a real good job of putting me at ease at the start, because I was a little nervous because like the guy, I watch the news all the time and I'm like, oh, it's Tom. And I was kind of like weirded out for a moment. And then like he just asked a couple questions, like he asked a couple questions that didn't get aired, and like I was like, oh wow, this is just a regular dude. And like then we were just having, like, we had a little bit of a human moment because he was talking about how concerned he was that his wife is in the home office, his daughter was in his study, and he was doing his work on the kitchen table, and like he's like, well, could this happen, could that? And I was like, oh well, no, here's and it just was like okay, this guy's just kind of muddling through the pandemic as everybody else is, and then just chilled out and had a good time chatting with him.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I remember being approached a couple times for like websites or something, and I reached out to Steve D3. Well, this was a couple of years ago, but I reached out to Steve D3 because I was trying to figure out what kind of things they would be asking me questions on, and he was helping to coach me because he's like, the media will sometimes ask you a question expecting one answer, and they are actually looking for a different answer, and they will, not deep fake it, but they could paste your stuff together, or make changes to the audio to make like I didn't say that for that question. I said that for this question. Oh, damn, So yeah, you have to think about what they might say, or what the unspoken question in this case. So
well, the trick that I did, if you actually go back and listen to the segment, I say things like, "Hey, Russia is not attacking you as an individual." Like I never answer just yes or no. You always tell them exactly what you want the soundbite to be.
Right. Okay. Well, that's good. Things probably, I do remember seeing more than one Twitter mention where somebody was like, oh, I was misquoted in this article, or I was misquoted on this interview. And, it's like, now I guess they're allowing for, proper question answering instead of, trying to be dishonest like that. So.
I guess it depends on the media too. Like there's some folks that want that scandal. Whatever.
If it bleeds, it leads. Yeah. Mr. Betcher, do you have anything else? I don't want to keep Mick because I'm sure he's got to get up early tomorrow morning and teach, and it's probably getting late, and it's 10 o'clock y'all's time. So I forgot you're in Austin, he's in Austin. So maybe y'all can get together and have lunchy times or brunches or something. So I'm not putting either one of you on the spot.
I didn't know that you were in Austin.
Just outside of Austin, yeah. I go in to Austin for work, yeah.
Oh, well, so...
I used to live there, but...
Okay.
Yeah.
With dinner some night? I would like that, legit.
How long are you there?
Until Saturday night is my last night.
Oh, okay.
Very cool.
Yeah, maybe so. We shall see.
All right, we made a connection. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm glad y'all can, it must be really nice to hang out with people and go to dinner with them and stuff. So
I'll email you some delicious brisket or whatever.
Email?
Yeah, it'll be an attachment. Just open my attachment. Brisket.exe.
I do miss Salt Lake, man. Whew, man.
The barbecue places in Austin. So number one is this trailer in East Austin, just a stand. I don't even know if they're still in business. Number two would probably be Style Switch, and maybe number three, Blacks.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of controversial to put it that low.
What, Blacks?
It's man, yeah, it's fighting words, man.
Style Switch is pretty good though.
Yeah, very cool. Chemist Security, how would you download a pizza? It would be really thin crust, paper thin, as a matter of fact, and it would taste awful. So, yeah, put extra little red ink on it, make it taste better. So, all right. Well, Mr. Betcher, do you have anything else you want to talk about, or anything you want to ask before we let Mick go? Give him another couple months of Twitter rants, and then we'll have him back on again. So
I'd be down for that.
I'm speaking of another Twitter rant that you did have. Somebody had asked about you doing some streaming of PowerShell.
Yeah.
And And to your point, like you said, I don't learn by video. Some people do,
Yep.
Some people don't. Some people are audio, some people are learn by doing. Some people like to watch and then mimic. But I would be more than willing to offer up our stream here. If you don't want to have to set up all the infrastructure, I can walk you through that. But if you want to ever do some PowerShell tutorials or something without me, or just get on for an hour and hack on some PowerShell, I know some people would be down for that.
I will be. Yeah. I'm not sure.
No pressure. No pressure.
No pressure.
No, seriously.
I am now of the opinion that it needs to happen. It can't be until May. There's a couple things that are going on between the Sans teach that I've got this week and then some client work that I'm going to be doing in April. So I do want to do it. I like the idea. I just don't know how to make it interesting because it'll be dull.
Well, there are a number of InfoSec people on Twitch, other than myself, that do very similar things. Like they do reverse engineering of binaries and stuff. And,
yeah, and they're good at it. Like it's interesting. Like PowerShell, it's like, hey, here's this class, and it's not working as I would expect.
Well, when you deliver it like that,
I mean, it's
welcome to Fun with PowerShell.
Welcome to Fun with PowerShell. Now, here we go. Invoke fun. Set fun to amazing.
Oh my God. I'm going to fell over. Oh my God.
We're having fun.
See, this is what fun is like. Join us. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh my God. But yeah, so I mean, like I said, no pressure. If you've got other things you've got to do, and if we want to monetize this, I'm all in. If you've got to do something to pay the bills or make it look above board and legit, so you can write it off as a business expense or something, we can.
That's cute. I live in Ohio. Our tax laws are so bonkers that like I'm writing this off. I just want to let you know. Yes.
Oh, fine. All right, I'll send you a receipt. Yeah, this is charity work, technically.
Have you ever deleted a tweet? Like maybe it was too controversial, and you were like, okay, I'll take it down.
Yes, I have. I try not to. I had one where I really took somebody to task, and they really got upset with me about it, and they said they fixed the concern that I had, and then they asked that I remove the tweet, please. And because they addressed the issue and they were so kind about it, I actually did. But by and large, like I don't. I feel that I don't know, like right or wrong, like the thing about Twitter is that like you own it. Like there's a couple tweets that I've done that I'm not proud of. Like there's I don't even remember the particulars of it, but there's this one journalist that I really blasted because the title of the article didn't match what they were writing about. And I didn't know that. I did not know that. I thought the journalist was the one who made the title. I just pure ignorance. And this person was like, "Yo, that was not cool." And I was like, "Yeah, I know your title sucked." And they're like, "Yeah, but I didn't write it." And then I was like, "Yeah." And I've not deleted those. I own it. Like that was I'm not proud of it.
That's okay. It's you learn something that day. And, yeah. Some people have bylines and they didn't write the reports either, or the blog posts or anything too. So you get ghostwritten all the time when you get to a certain level. So you could get called for task for a blog post that you didn't write because a junior person had written it or something like that. I see and hear about that happening all the time. So thank you, Chemist Security, for your subscription. I appreciate that. Martin says, "Dream, this PowerShell thing isn't doing what I expected. I wonder what I can do with this. Reality, this PowerShell thing isn't doing what I want. WTF, I do this thing, stupid PowerShell. Or do this thing, stupid PowerShell." Yeah.
True.
It's complicated, that PowerShell. I mean, it's not only it has integrations into the OS that you don't see with things like Linux, and maybe that has changed when PowerShell came out on Linux. But it seems like that it was made for Windows to interact with Windows in API form. But I don't know how integrated it is with Linux. But yeah, it's
pretty good.
It's amazing.
It's an API glue. It's just weird. It's I was actually chatting with somebody about this the other day. I don't think I'll ever feel comfortable with the syntax. The syntax is just
Janky.
weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it's just weird. No disrespect to Jeffrey Snover and anybody else who's working on the PowerShell stuff. It's just weird. That said, I will forever always go through the pain because what you can do with PowerShell is pretty freaking amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it just doesn't follow the same. It doesn't follow the same syntax like we're used to from Linux. Because we use a Linux CLI, so we're expecting certain things to work certain ways, or at least that's how I see it when I try to use PowerShell. A lot of tab completions for me using that. It's like I can't I don't know -8 or -K or whatever for certain commands, but it's like for this I'm tab completing like hell, or I always have to look it up because there's just so many different commands.
Well, yeah, the problem that I have is more like, in one of the Slack channels that I'm in, somebody was asking like this this invocation of where using the where object. This works. This one, which is also like very different looking, also works. Which do you prefer and why? And when do you use one versus the other? And it's just really weird because I'm used to in Unix you usually only have a single way to do one thing.
Right.
And that's not true. Like, because it's PowerShell is an API glue, there's lots of weird ways and weird edge cases. Like, you might be familiar with get WMI object, and then you specify the different things. Did you know that there's a WMI selector primitive that you can do that does the exact same thing, and it's like super terse? Like, what? Like, why? What? Why? And that's how they roll. And so it's a very odd, just a very different way of doing things. And so, maybe a spoiler teaser in like 4 or 5 weeks when I finally start doing this stream, like you'll get to see me just going like, PowerShell, what do you do? That might be like the logo. Like having like a rant face.
Nice.
As he's frustrated with it.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, Microsoft's PowerShell manuals, 950 pages. So I'm sure you've got more than a few, segments or streams that you'll be able to help and discover and work on while you're over there. So cool. If to keep you having to reduce the amount of setup for your Twitch stream and understanding how all that works, I've kind of already done all that. So, but yeah, if you do decide you want to do that, just let me know and we'll make something happen.
Okay.
Cool.
All right.
I think we should let these fine people go. Mr. Betcher, tell people about what LogMD does and how people can find you on the interwebs.
Yeah, LogMD, the log and malicious discovery tool for Windows. Yeah, learn about how what logs to. It kind of rolls along with what Mick Douglas was talking about in the very beginning. Where do I start logging? What log events should I grab, right? And so LogMD helps you do that and get started with defending Windows environments. log-md.com.
Right on. And your Twitter is?
@BetcherPwned.
There you go. Okay. Mick, tell us how people can find your lovely rantings if they're not following the Twitch stream chat online. And when I say rantings, I mean that in a good way because, I guess it's good only because I agree with a lot of what you say on there. If I didn't agree with a lot of what you say, I probably wouldn't be having you on the show. So,
so you can follow me on Twitter @BetterSafetyNet, @BetterSafetyNet.
Okay. Or at a SANS conference near you, or anywhere 504 is being taught.
Yes.
So, yeah. So, but yeah. Cool. All right, Miss Berlin. When we find out where she is, we'll get you updated. You can find her on Twitter at InfoSister, INFOSYSTIR. She does on role playing type games similar to Clerics and Caverns, but with incident response bent. If you're looking for that, it's on Twitter at InfoSec Roleplay. And she's getting back into the swing of things. She's done a couple of workshops now and spaces at conferences for Hackers Health. I think the next one that she's looking at doing is Blue Team Con, maybe. She may be doing another one before that, but we'll find out. But yeah, you can check them out on Twitter at Hackers Health, and yeah, she's does a lot of great work with that, and mental health issues are very serious, and we all need to remember that, especially since we're going back into society again. We're going to be taking our baggage back with us, so just something to think about there. So you can follow the podcast on our Twitch at twitch.tv/BreakSec. You can follow us on Twitter at BreakSec. You can follow me at Brian Break, and yeah, that's it. Thank you to our Patreon donors. If you do various levels of Patreon, you'll get special channels on our Discord. If you want access to our Discord, send me a DM. We have moderation. We have robot logic, roles management, and a code of conduct. So yeah, come and check that out. We still have the Slack as well. We'll send you an invite to that if you want it. But we're trying to keep everything equal here. So thank you to all of the people that supported the stream. We had Kimma Security sending us a tier 1 tier 1 subscription. Kimma Security also gave us 100 Twitch bolts and had several follows here tonight, Mr. Minus and Kimma Security and others. So thank y'all for coming in. Hope you find value in this and the 47 other hours of content that I've put out since February 27th. So I'll be working on a more regular schedule for that in the near future. So cool. Yeah, I think that's it. Everyone have a great week. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to one another. Take care of yourselves, as we're fond to say here, because you're the only you have. And we'll talk to you again next week.